The sky was too quiet. No thunder, no planes, no birds in flight. Only silence, thick and heavy, as if the whole planet was holding its breath. Then, without warning, the silence broke. They appeared in the upper atmosphere, first as faint shadows against the stars, then as massive shapes blotting out the night. The ships were black, darker than space itself, absorbing every bit of light. They slid across the heavens with a cold grace, hundreds of them, moving as one. Earth had never seen a fleet like this. Across cities and villages, people looked up. Screens in Times Square flickered. Phones buzzed with alerts. Televisions cut away from regular programs. Every channel carried the same image, a fleet of alien vessels sliding into orbit, their surfaces covered in strange, glowing veins of blue. For a moment, humanity could only watch. No one spoke. No one moved. Then the first transmission came. A voice, deep and sharp, poured through the speakers of every device, translated instantly by systems that no human had built. "People of Earth," it said, "we come from beyond your small star. We have studied your world. We have measured your strength. And we find you lacking." The voice paused, then echoed with cruel amusement. "Your air is weak, thin, dirty, unfit for any advanced being. You breathe poison and call it life." Gasps rippled across the world. In living rooms, in command centers, in cafes where workers had gathered around televisions, jaws dropped. The arrogance was clear. The insult cut deep. The broadcast continued. "Your planet is fragile. Your species primitive. We come not as destroyers but as rulers. Kneel and your survival may be tolerated." Then the image changed. Cameras on Earth caught the descent. Great black ships breaking through the clouds, flames licking their hulls as they pushed against the atmosphere. They did not fall like meteors, but drifted like shadows. With a hiss they slowed, engines glowing bright and cold. One by one, they landed. The ground trembled as the first craft settled outside New York. Others touched down near Beijing, Moscow and Cairo. The world watched through shaky live streams, news drones and satellites overhead. Wherever they landed, people fled to rooftops and windows, some frozen in awe, others in terror. Then came the soldiers, their rampways lowered with mechanical groans, and from the dark belly of the ships emerged figures clad in shining armor. Dozens, then hundreds, marching in formation. The metal of their suits reflected the city lights, gleaming silver and blue. Their movements were sharp, practiced, the kind of precision only born of long training and total confidence. They looked unstoppable. The leader of the first squad raised a hand, and the ranks halted in perfect unison. Their helmets were sleek, faceless, glowing faintly where their eyes should have been. As they surveyed Earth's people, their laughter came, not the warm laughter of amusement, but a cruel, mocking sound. Hollow behind their helmets, one soldier stepped forward, voice amplified for the cameras. "This world is ours to take. You breathe foul gas and call it air. You choke on filth and call it life." His words rang with disdain. Then, with a flourish meant to mock, he reached up and unclasped his helmet. The locks hissed. With a metallic twist, the mask came free. The soldier lifted it high, laughing. Others followed, pulling their helmets free and exposing pale, ridged faces, their mouths curled in arrogance. The alien leader inhaled deeply, as if savoring the moment. "Pathetic," he sneered. "We were told of oxygen. We were told of nitrogen. We were told of your water-rich skies. But this is weakness." On Earth, people trembled. Children clutched parents. Leaders whispered in hidden rooms. Could it be true? Was their air the very thing that gave them life? Nothing but a joke to these invaders. But then, like something shifted, the first laugh turned to a cough. It was small, almost easy to miss, hidden beneath the echo of mockery. The soldier who had inhaled so boldly staggered, clutching at his chest. His laughter broke into a rasp. Another soldier coughed. Then another. The commander's confident grin froze, his eyes narrowing as his skin twitched. A hiss of steam rose from his armor, white and sudden, curling into the night air. Reporters screamed into microphones, unsure of what they were witnessing. Camera lenses zoomed in. The alien chest plates began to glow, not brightly but with a faint shimmer, like metal left too long in acid. The soldiers looked at one another, confusion spreading where arrogance had once reigned. Then came the first crack. A thin, glowing line spread across a soldier's chest plate, sizzling as if carved by fire. He staggered, trying to hold it shut, but the metal bent and warped under his fingers. Sparks spat from the joints of his armor. The laughter was gone now, replaced by coughs, by gasps, by the sharp clatter of armor plates hitting the ground. People across the world leaned closer to their screens. Some dared to whisper, others too stunned to breathe. What was happening? Why was their armor burning? The leader barked orders in a language not meant for human ears, but even his voice cracked as steam burst from the seals of his armor. His soldiers fell back, some tearing at their chest plates, others clawing at their helmets, desperate to reattach them. But it was too late. The damage was done. Metal dripped like wax onto the ground. The proud marchers, who had mocked Earth's air only moments ago, now staggered like wounded animals. Their formation broke. Their arrogance cracked with their armor. Around the world, humans did not cheer. Not yet. They only watched, hearts pounding. As the unthinkable unfolded, the air, Earth's air, was fighting back, and no one knew what would happen next. The world was still in shock. Every major news channel replayed the same shaky footage. Armored aliens, once marching with pride, now stumbling and coughing as smoke poured from their shining suits. Across continents, people gathered in front of televisions, phones, and giant outdoor screens. The same question burned in every mind. What is happening to them? In New York, the soldiers staggered near their ship, some clutching their throats, others pounding their armor with fists. Steam hissed from joints and seams, rolling into the cool night air. One soldier dropped to his knees, chest plate glowing red-hot before splitting apart. The molten metal dripped onto the street, sizzling where it hit the pavement. Gasps rose from the crowd hiding behind police barricades. A cameraman zoomed in, capturing every detail as the alien struggled to stand. His once gleaming armor was warped and corroded, as if years of decay had happened in only minutes. Inside the United Nations Command Center, a wall of screens displayed live feeds from New York, Beijing, Moscow, and Cairo. Generals and scientists stood shoulder to shoulder, their faces pale. Is this chemical warfare? One general asked, unable to tear his eyes from the screen. No, whispered Dr. Elaine Carter, a physicist from MIT. It's not us. We haven't fired a single shot. She adjusted her glasses, voice trembling. This is something else. On another screen, Beijing's broadcast showed a line of aliens breaking rank, clawing at their armor. A reporter shouted breathlessly in Mandarin, her voice cracking as she described the scene. The translator feed echoed through the command center. They are collapsing. The soldiers are collapsing. The generals leaned closer, eyes darting between feeds. Then it happened again. A soldier in Cairo screamed, his voice metallic and distorted through a broken speaker in his helmet. His chest plate cracked wide open, releasing a burst of steam. The glowing shards fell away, leaving his pale, ridged body exposed. He collapsed into the sand, writhing as his skin blistered under the night air. The crowd watching from rooftops gasped, some crossing themselves, others simply frozen in awe. Back in New York, one alien commander managed to steady himself. He barked orders in a guttural alien tongue, his voice amplified by damaged speakers. His soldiers tried to respond, dragging fallen comrades back toward their ship. But even as they moved, sparks snapped across their bodies, their armor buckling under the unseen attack. This doesn't make sense, whispered Dr. Carter. Their technology, it should be stronger than anything we've built. What could be eating through it so fast? The question hung in the room like smoke. No one answered. Across the world, civilians recorded with phones, the footage spreading online faster than any government could control. Hashtags exploded. Memes appeared within minutes. But beneath the internet noise was real fear. Some asked if Earth's air was toxic only to the aliens. Others feared retaliation. If their armor failed, would the aliens strike harder, desperate to survive? In Moscow, soldiers from Earth's army cautiously approached the landing site. They kept their rifles raised but did not fire. Through binoculars, a Russian colonel watched as alien armor plates bubbled and melted like ice on fire. He lowered the binoculars slowly, crossing himself. Back at the United Nations, the feeds cut back to New York. Reporters were shouting over each other. The crowd behind the barricades pressed forward, trying to get a closer look. Police held them back, their own hands shaking. One alien finally tore off his chest plate entirely, tossing it aside with a metallic clang. The exposed body underneath looked both powerful and fragile, muscles rippling under strange pale skin. But even that body began to shiver violently, as though rejecting the very air it touched. The alien dropped to the ground, convulsing. His commander roared in anger, lifting his weapon, but the gun itself sparked and fizzled. The weapon's sleek metal casing blistered, cracking open as if corroded from the inside. For hours the world had been watching. The first footage of melting alien armor had spread across every television, every phone, every news site. By now no one on Earth could claim ignorance of what was happening. From skyscrapers in New York to small fishing villages along the coast of India, people whispered the same questions. Were the invaders already defeated? Or was this only the beginning? In the White House Situation Room, advisors crowded around a glowing wall of screens. Generals argued in hushed tones. Scientists spoke rapidly, their voices rising in panic. "We should strike now," barked General Morris, slamming his fist on the table. "They're weak. Their armor is failing. One push and we finish them before they recover." Others disagreed. "We don't understand what's happening," countered Dr. Elaine Carter, her voice steady despite the chaos. "If their armor melts in our atmosphere, we need to know why. If we rush in blind, we could trigger retaliation or worse, adaptation." The president said nothing. Eyes fixed on the central screen showing New York. The alien soldiers were retreating slowly toward their ship. Their weapons sparked and fizzled, their chest plates dripping molten shards. Yet even in this broken state, they still moved with discipline, still carried themselves like conquerors. On the screen, the alien commander straightened his back. His armor smoked, glowing with hairline cracks, but his posture radiated pride. He raised a clawed hand toward the camera drone hovering nearby. His voice thundered across every device. "People of Earth, do not mistake this inconvenience for victory." His words carried a strange edge, half fury, half arrogance. "Your atmosphere stings, but it will not stop us. We adapt, we endure, we conquer." The broken armor hissed louder as though mocking him. Steam curled from his shoulders. But his soldiers answered with a roar of loyalty, slamming their fists against their failing chest plates. In Times Square, crowds watching the live feed shivered. Some laughed nervously. Others shouted curses at the screens. A woman clutched her child and whispered, "He's lying. He has to be lying." But the arrogance of the alien commander was undeniable. Even with metal dripping from his frame, he looked directly into the camera, his ridged face twisted in a grin. Dr. Carter leaned forward, studying the footage. "He's bluffing," she murmured. "They're terrified, but they won't admit it. Not to us. Not even to themselves." Still, fear spread through the command center. What if he wasn't bluffing? What if their technology truly could adapt? What if the melting was only temporary, and by the time Earth prepared a counterattack, the invaders would be stronger than ever? Around the globe, governments held emergency meetings. Some leaders shouted for retaliation, others demanded restraint. The United Nations chamber buzzed with chaos, translators struggling to keep pace, as dozens of voices clashed in fear and anger. Meanwhile, civilians panicked. In Los Angeles, families rushed to gas stations, filling tanks to flee the city. In Tokyo, shelves emptied as people grabbed bottled water and food. Rumors spread online that the aliens' weapons might still function, or that their failing armor could release deadly chemicals into the air. Fear grew. Fear always grew fastest, but amid the panic something else stirred, an ember of pride. On forums, on live streams, on whispered conversations in shelters, ordinary people said the same thing. The air they mocked is killing them. Our world itself is fighting back. In Moscow, a Russian colonel stood before his troops watching the alien landing zone through binoculars. The soldiers looked restless, fingers twitching near their triggers. The colonel lowered the binoculars and muttered to himself, "Not weak, never weak." His words were quiet, but his men heard. Some nodded, standing a little taller. Yet the aliens would not bow. As the commander in New York staggered toward his ship, he activated a device on his wrist. A holographic projection flared into the air. His face multiplied 100 times over, broadcast above the city skyline. "You cannot resist us," he snarled. "This planet belongs to us now. Your air may burn our armor, but it cannot burn our will. You will kneel." The projection flickered, distorted by interference, but his words still reached millions. For some it crushed hope. For others it stoked fury. In Cairo, a crowd gathered near the alien landing site. They hurled rocks at the retreating soldiers, their shouts echoing through the streets. "Go back!" they cried. "Go back to the stars!" For the first time, humans faced the invaders not with fear but defiance. The aliens ignored the rocks. Their armor cracked further. Their weapons hissed and sparked, yet they marched on as if still untouchable. In the Situation Room, the debate reached its peak. General Morris slammed his fist again. "Every second we wait, they adapt. Attack now!" Dr. Carter shook her head. "No, look at them. They're rotting in real time. We need to learn why. That knowledge could save us or doom us." The president finally spoke, his voice calm but heavy. "We hold, not yet. We watch." On the streets of New York, the alien commander gave one last arrogant glare into the cameras. His cracked armor hissed, sparks snapping across his chest. Still, he sneered. Still, he pretended control. And in living rooms across Earth, billions of humans stared back, their fear battling with a growing, dangerous question: if Earth itself is their enemy. Do we even need to fight? While the alien soldiers staggered and their armor hissed in the open air, humanity turned inward. In hidden laboratories and military bunkers, the race to understand had already begun. In Geneva, inside the underground halls of CERN, a team of physicists gathered around a steel table. On it lay a fragment of alien armor, still smoking faintly, even though it had been removed hours earlier. Its surface shimmered strangely, reflecting light like oil on water. Every few seconds, tiny sparks popped across its edges, as though the metal itself resisted being studied. Dr. Elaine Carter, flown in from the United States, leaned close. She wore thick gloves and a breathing mask, though she knew neither would truly protect her if the fragment reacted. Her voice was low but steady. "It's not just melting. It's corroding, breaking down faster than anything I've ever seen." Her assistant, a young physicist named Raj, nodded. He tapped the screen of a monitoring device. "The reaction only happens in Earth's atmosphere. In a vacuum, it stabilizes. But the second we reintroduce air, as if on cue, the fragment sizzled, releasing a thin curl of smoke." Raj stepped back quickly. Dr. Carter's eyes widened. "Nitrogen, moisture, oxygen. Something in the mix is eating this alloy alive." Across the ocean, in a secret U.S. military lab, another fragment sat in a sealed chamber. Scientists pumped pure oxygen inside, then pure nitrogen, then carbon dioxide. They took notes furiously, comparing results. Oxygen alone caused a slow reaction. Nitrogen alone caused nothing. But when combined, oxygen, nitrogen, and water vapor, the reaction exploded. The armor glowed, cracked, and dissolved into brittle flakes. "Unbelievable," muttered one of the chemists. "The very air we breathe is poison to them." In Moscow, similar experiments were underway. Russian scientists held their fragment with robotic arms, testing it against moisture and temperature. They discovered that the hotter and more humid the air, the faster the armor failed. In the deserts of Cairo, soldiers had seen this firsthand. The armor there had crumbled twice as quickly as in New York. The reports flew between governments. Scientists compared notes through encrypted channels, their words filled with disbelief. It wasn't just Earth's air. It was Earth itself. Back at CERN, Dr. Carter gathered her team around. On the wall screen, the results flashed. Moisture accelerated the reaction, oxygen fed it, nitrogen locked it in. Together, Earth's atmosphere was a perfect corrosive storm for alien technology. Dr. Carter whispered the thought aloud. "Our planet is their enemy." But even as hope rose, fear followed close behind. If the armor failed, what of the aliens inside? Would they die as well or adapt? If they adapted, could their ships resist the same fate? Around the world, debate raged. In the Pentagon, generals pressed harder than ever. "We have proof now. Strike while their armor fails. Wipe them out before they shield themselves." But Dr. Carter pushed back. "No, we need more time. If we understand this fully, we may not need to fire a single shot. The planet is already fighting for us. We just need to help it." Her words carried weight, but not enough to silence the hawks. Some leaders saw opportunity. This was the moment to prove human power. Others feared disaster. If Earth's air was only a temporary weakness, the aliens could return stronger, immune. In Beijing, a biochemist made another discovery. Samples of alien blood, recovered from a fallen soldier, had been sealed in a tube. When exposed to Earth's air, the blood fizzed and thickened as though boiling. Under the microscope, cells ruptured, collapsing in on themselves. The biochemist whispered, horrified, "They can't live here." Not for long. Their bodies are fighting the air just as their armor does. The findings spread fast. At the United Nations, leaders listened in stunned silence as scientists presented their results. Slides flashed across the big screen. Alien armor dissolving in humid air. Alien blood breaking down in oxygen. "This is not just a weakness," Dr. Carter concluded. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "This is a fatal flaw. Earth itself rejects them. Our atmosphere, our water, our very environment is toxic to their existence." Gasps filled the chamber. Some delegates clapped. Others stared in disbelief. But then came the warning. The hope that had flickered across the world did not last long. At first, people believed the aliens might retreat. Their armor was cracking, their weapons failing, their bodies weakening in the air. For a brief, fragile moment, humanity felt the possibility of victory without war. But arrogance rarely retreats. In New York, the shimmering domes the aliens had built began to expand. Blue light pulsed outward, repelling the atmosphere itself. The toxic air was pushed back like a rising tide against glass. Within the shield, the aliens stood tall again. Their armor ceased to melt. Their weapons hummed back to life. The alien commander raised his arm, and for the first time since their arrival, his soldiers aimed their weapons at Earth's people. The first blast struck the streets. A searing bolt of white energy ripped through a police barricade, shattering cars and sending shockwaves down the block. Windows exploded, flames licked at the pavement, and civilians screamed as they scattered. The counterattack had begun. News cameras shook as reporters ducked for cover, their voices breaking with panic. "The aliens! Oh God, the aliens are firing! They're striking back!" Across the globe it was the same. In Cairo, soldiers under a blue dome marched forward, their rifles glowing. They fired into the air, scattering crowds, tearing through buildings. In Moscow, explosions rocked the streets as tanks returned fire, their shells slamming into alien barriers but failing to penetrate. In Beijing, drones captured the moment an alien warship unleashed a beam of light, cutting a line of fire through an entire district. The world that had been celebrating was suddenly in flames. In the Pentagon, General Morris shouted over the chaos, "They're striking everywhere at once. Shields are stabilizing their armor. We need to hit them with everything we've got." The president's jaw tightened. "Mobilize. Full defense. Every nation, every city." Orders raced across satellites and secure lines. Sirens wailed in capitals across the globe. Fighter jets scrambled, tanks rolled into position, missiles locked onto alien ships. Humanity had been pushed to the edge. Now it pushed back. But the battlefield was uneven. In New York, an entire squad of soldiers opened fire on the dome, their bullets sparking harmlessly against its surface. Inside, the aliens advanced with chilling calm, firing volley after volley. Civilians ran in every direction, stumbling over debris, ducking into subway tunnels for shelter. Above the chaos, helicopters circled. One reporter, voice shaking, cried into her camera, "We are witnessing the first war between Earth and an alien power. Our cities, our people." Her voice broke as another blast lit the sky. In Moscow, the colonel who had once whispered, "Not weak," now roared orders at his troops. Rockets screamed across the night sky, striking the alien dome. The shield flickered but held. Alien rifles answered, cutting fiery lines through the Russian ranks. Men and women fell, their cries swallowed by explosions. Still they fought. In Cairo, tanks rolled forward, their cannons thundering. One shell struck an alien tower generator, cracking its surface. For a brief second, the shield shimmered weakly, and the crowd of civilians outside roared with hope. But alien engineers rushed to repair it, sparks flying as they forced the generator back to life. The dome pulsed stronger than before. Back in Geneva, Dr. Carter slammed her hand on the lab table. "No, no, no. They're stabilizing their environment. They're buying time to adapt." She turned to Raj, eyes blazing. "If they succeed, the atmosphere won't touch them anymore. We'll lose our only advantage." Raj's voice was tight. "Then Earth has to destroy those generators. Every last one of them." Meanwhile, in New York, the battle worsened. Jets screamed overhead, firing missiles at the alien ship. The explosions lit the night sky, tearing chunks from its surface. But even as smoke billowed, the ship returned fire. A massive energy beam sliced through the air, vaporizing 2 jets in a blinding flash. The shockwave shattered glass across half the city. On the ground, soldiers fired everything they had. Rockets, grenades, machine guns. The streets thundered with the sound of human defiance. One soldier, face covered in soot, shouted to his comrades, "Don't let them push forward." "Hold the line!" The aliens did not retreat. Their arrogance had returned with their shields. Even as their armor hissed faintly where the dome's edge flickered, they marched with cold precision, weapons blazing. The battle stretched into hours. Cities burned. Civilians huddled in basements and bunkers, listening to the distant roar of war. Around the world, humanity realized a chilling truth. Their air alone would not save them. The aliens were adapting too quickly. At the United Nations, shaken delegates watched live feeds in horror. Flames rose above skylines. Domes shimmered across capitals. Alien ships rained destruction. One delegate whispered, "This is the end." But Dr. Carter stood. Her voice cut through the despair. "No, it's not the end. It's the beginning. We know their weakness now. If we strike the generators, their shields will fall. The air will do the rest." General Morris glared at her, fists clenched. "Then it's time to stop waiting. It's time for Earth to fight back." On the screens, alien commanders raised their weapons high, their voices booming in guttural victory calls. Yet behind the arrogance, steam still hissed faintly, sparks still snapped across armor. Their survival was fragile, their adaptation incomplete, and humanity, though battered and burning, had finally begun to fight as one. The counterattack had begun. But the war was only just starting. The world had reached its breaking point. For days, alien domes pulsed across Earth's greatest cities, shimmering barriers that pushed back the very air. Within them, the invaders stood tall again, their armor stabilized, their weapons burning with deadly light. They had unleashed destruction on New York, Moscow, Cairo, and Beijing, sending humanity reeling. But fear does not last forever. In the ashes of shattered buildings, in the whispers of soldiers sheltering in rubble, in the cries of civilians watching their homes burn, something new had risen. Not despair, not surrender, resolve. Dr. Elaine Carter's voice carried through every military channel. Destroy the generators. Tear down the domes. Let the air do the rest. Those words spread like fire. Across continents, commanders repeated them. Soldiers memorized them. Civilians clung to them. It was the plan Earth had been waiting for, and so humanity struck back. In New York, the first counterattack began at dawn. Smoke still hung heavy over the skyline, but the sound of helicopters roared above it. Soldiers moved through ruined streets, guided by drones that tracked the glowing alien towers. A squad of U.S. Marines crept forward through the rubble of Fifth Avenue. Sergeant Rivera raised his fist, signaling his team to stop. Ahead, under the shimmering blue dome, an alien generator pulsed like a beating heart. Around it, soldiers in cracked but glowing armor stood guard. Rivera whispered into his radio, "Target in sight. Request airstrike." Moments later, the sky screamed. A pair of jets tore across the horizon, unleashing missiles that streaked toward the dome. The explosions rocked the street, the shockwave knocking Rivera and his men off their feet. For a heartbeat, the dome flickered. The aliens staggered, their armor sizzling at the edges. "Now!" Rivera shouted. His squad surged forward, firing rockets and grenades. The generator cracked under the barrage, sparks flying as its glow faltered. The dome shimmered violently, then collapsed with a thunderous pop. The air rushed in. Steam exploded from the aliens' armor. Their weapons sparked and died. One soldier screamed as his chest plate crumbled, molten shards spilling onto the ground. Rivera raised his rifle and shouted, "Push them back! Make them breathe!" For the first time, humans charged not in fear but in fury. In Moscow, tanks thundered through the streets, their cannons pounding alien shields. At the front of the column, Colonel Ivanov stood tall in his command vehicle, barking orders into his radio. "Focus fire on the generators. Ignore their soldiers." Dozens of missiles arced through the sky, slamming into the alien tower. The shield trembled, flashing like broken glass. Russian infantry poured forward, rifles blazing, while civilians in nearby buildings hurled Molotov cocktails from windows. The flames burst against alien armor, mixing with the hiss of Earth's air eating away at their suits. The dome collapsed. The aliens roared, scrambling to repair it, but their weapons fizzled in their hands. Ivanov lifted his binoculars, watching as one alien clawed at his melting helmet before collapsing into the street. He lowered the glass and growled, "Not weak. Never weak." In Cairo, the battle raged near the Nile. Tanks rolled through the sand, artillery booming in the distance. Egyptian soldiers advanced behind a wall of fire, their chants echoing over the roar of war. Above them, drones dived, dropping explosives onto the glowing generator towers. The dome shattered in a burst of blue light. The air swept in like a storm, wrapping the aliens in the very poison they had once mocked. Soldiers coughed and stumbled, armor peeling like rusted iron. From rooftops, civilians cheered. They raised flags, shouted prayers, hurled stones and bottles at the faltering invaders. For the first time, Cairo's night was filled not only with terror, but with triumph. In Beijing, the battle was hardest. The alien ship loomed massive over the city, pouring fire into its streets. But resistance cells, ordinary citizens armed with stolen weapons, moved like shadows. Guided by the People's Liberation Army, they planted charges at the base of the alien generators. The explosions shook the ground. The night sky burned with fire. Alien warships, once untouchable shadows in Earth's orbit, now blazed as falling wrecks. One by one, their hulls cracked under missile strikes and the relentless bite of the atmosphere. Trails of flame streaked across the heavens, raining debris into oceans and deserts. From the ground, billions of eyes watched in awe. Cities that had trembled under alien domes now stood free. New York, Moscow, Cairo, Beijing, each scarred, each smoldering, but each still standing. Humanity had not been erased. Humanity had endured. In Geneva, the command center was a storm of voices. Screens lit up with live feeds of alien ships retreating. Cheers broke out as reports streamed in. Domes destroyed in Paris. Cairo clear. Moscow holding. Dr. Elaine Carter stood at the center of it all, her hands trembling as she gripped the table. "They're pulling back," she whispered. "They're finally pulling back." General Morris leaned closer to the screen, jaw tight. "Don't assume mercy. They'll regroup. They'll come again if they can." On the monitors, a massive alien flagship began to rise higher into orbit. Its hull flickered, faint cracks running along its armored plates. The commander's guttural voice echoed across hijacked frequencies. "Humans, you are resilient vermin, but this world will not save you forever." The broadcast cut off in static. Dr. Carter met Morris's gaze. "They still don't understand. It isn't just us, it's Earth itself." In New York, Sergeant Rivera and his squad stood among the rubble. Smoke drifted through shattered skyscrapers, but for the first time in days, sunlight broke through the haze. Civilians emerged from subway tunnels and basements, their faces streaked with dirt and tears, but their eyes alive with hope. Children waved torn flags. Strangers embraced. Survivors held candles above the ruins. Rivera lowered his rifle, exhaustion pressing heavy on his shoulders. He looked at the dead alien at his feet, its once gleaming armor melted into a twisted husk. "You thought this planet was weak," he muttered. "Turns out, you were the weak ones." In Moscow, Colonel Ivanov climbed onto a burned-out tank. Around him, his soldiers cheered as another alien ship fell in flames beyond the horizon. He raised his fist, voice booming across the square. "They thought our air was poison," he shouted. "And it was. For them. This is not weakness. This is strength." The crowd roared, their voices echoing off shattered walls. For the first time since the invasion began, laughter returned. Human laughter, sharp and defiant. But not every battle was victory. In Beijing, the streets were lined with ash. Hundreds lay wounded, thousands displaced. Doctors worked by candlelight, tending to survivors. Civilians dug through rubble with bare hands, searching for family. And yet, amid the ruin, the people refused to break. They sang old songs. They shared what little food they had. They carried both the living and the dead with quiet dignity. As one survivor whispered, looking at the burning wreck of an alien warship in the sky, "They wanted to conquer us, but they made us one instead." In orbit, the last alien ships turned tail. Their engines flared as they fled Earth's pull, limping back toward the black of space. No cheers followed them, only a deep, watchful silence. Because humanity knew they would remember this, and they might return. But if they did, Earth would be ready. Weeks later, under a bruised but healing sky, the United Nations convened in Geneva. Leaders from every nation, some still in uniforms, others in soot-stained suits, gathered around a single table. No borders mattered now, no flags divided them. They had survived together, or not at all. Dr. Carter addressed them, her voice calm but firm. The aliens came here believing our air was dirty, unworthy of advanced life. They mocked us for the very thing that sustains us, but it was their arrogance that killed them. They never stopped to understand that every world is unique. They assumed superiority, and that assumption destroyed them. She paused, looking across the weary but unbroken faces. Earth has always been dangerous. Storms, volcanoes, diseases, deserts. We survived them all, we adapted, and that is why we are still here. We are not weak, we are human, and this planet, our home, fights with us. The chamber fell silent. Then applause rose, rolling like thunder through the hall. In New York, a monument was raised over the ruins of Times Square. A sculpture of cracked alien armor, half melted, with a single inscription carved into stone. They laughed at our air. It was their last breath. People from every corner of the world came to see it. Survivors laid flowers at its base. Children touched the armor, their eyes wide with wonder. It was a reminder, not of fear, but of pride. As months passed, Earth began to rebuild. Cities healed, new alliances formed, old enemies set aside their grudges. Humanity had looked into the face of annihilation and endured. But above the atmosphere, beyond the stars, the memory of the invasion lingered. The wrecks of alien ships floated like broken bones in orbit, and somewhere in the black, those who had fled might still be watching. Yet Earth did not tremble anymore, because the invaders had left behind one final, unintended gift: proof that humanity, when united, could stand against anything. And so the lesson was clear, both for the aliens who had mocked and for the humans who had survived. Never mistake kindness for weakness, never confuse survival with fragility, and never laugh at Earth's air. The war was over. At least, that's what people told themselves. Weeks turned into months, and Earth slowly stitched itself back together. Cities scarred by fire rose again, bridges were rebuilt, streets cleared of rubble, power lines strung back across broken skylines. Survivors planted gardens in the ashes, turning ruins into green. Humanity had been tested, and humanity had endured. But scars lingered deeper than rubble. In the silence of space, broken alien warships still drifted in orbit, glowing faintly like embers. Some had crashed into oceans, leaving black scars across the waves. Others circled Earth endlessly, torn open by battle, their strange markings flickering like ghosts. Scientists boarded them, soldiers guarded them, and governments argued over who would own the technology left behind. Yet one truth united all: the aliens had fled. But they had not been destroyed. At the United Nations, Dr. Elaine Carter spoke to the Assembly once more. "They underestimated us," she said, her voice steady. "They thought Earth was weak, but make no mistake, this was only their first attempt. Somewhere in the dark beyond the stars they are watching, studying, preparing." The chamber fell silent. Leaders shifted uneasily. General Morris broke the stillness. "Then so will we." In the deserts of Nevada, military engineers worked around the clock. Crashed alien weapons were dismantled, studied and piece by piece rebuilt. Tanks rolled with new alloys, jets carried experimental shielding. Even infantry rifles began to hum with stolen alien energy. In Beijing, teams of scientists studied the remains of a generator tower. Its strange core still pulsed weakly, as though breathing. Raj stared at the flickering light. "If we can master this," he whispered, "no invader will ever set foot on Earth again." In Moscow, Colonel Ivanov drilled his troops harder than ever, preparing for wars not yet fought. "We held them once," he barked. "We will hold them again. No army from the stars will break us." And in Cairo, where alien fire had scarred the ancient sands, archaeologists discovered something strange. Not all the wreckage was alien. Buried beneath a destroyed generator deep in the earth, they found ruins older than history. Structures that seemed not of human design. The question rose, whispered on every continent. Had Earth been visited before? Meanwhile, far beyond the solar system, in a distant nebula, the survivors of the alien fleet limped into orbit around a vast station. Their commander, armor scarred and hissing, knelt before a towering figure cloaked in shadows. "We underestimated them," the commander rasped. "The air, it burned us. The planet itself fought against us." The figure's voice rumbled, ancient and cold. "You shamed us with failure." The commander bowed his head. "But they are strong, stronger than we thought. Perhaps not strong enough to challenge the Dominion." A long silence followed. Then the shadowed figure raised its hand, and a holographic image of Earth appeared, blue-green, fragile, and yet alive. "Then let them prepare," the figure whispered. "We will return. Not with soldiers, but with legions, not with arrogance, but with fury. The humans have drawn the gaze of powers far greater than they know." Back on Earth, ordinary people tried to return to ordinary lives. Children went back to school. Farmers tilled soil where battles once raged. Markets opened, laughter returned to streets. But something had changed. Humanity was no longer just a world of nations. It was a world of survivors, united by war. In New York, Sergeant Rivera visited the monument in Times Square. He placed his hand on the melted alien armor, staring at the words carved beneath. "They laughed at our air." It was their last breath. A child tugged at his sleeve. "Mister, do you think they'll come back?" Rivera knelt, meeting the boy's eyes. He thought of the skies on fire, the screams, the battles, the unity. And then he thought of humanity's spirit, the stubborn will that refused to bow. "Yes," Rivera said quietly, "they'll come back, but so will we." And high above, unseen by human eyes, an alien probe slipped silently into Earth's orbit. Its sensors glowed red as it scanned the atmosphere, the cities, the ruins. It sent one signal across the dark, a message not of defeat but of warning. Earth was no longer just a world. It was a threat,